glad science, where we're glad to see you. I'm Sakshi, and in today's video I'll be walking you through the different parts of the cell. So first things first, what is the cell? To answer that question, let's look to the cell theory. The cell theory states that cells are basic units of life, all living things are made up of cells, and all cells come from pre-existing cells. It is also important to note that Robert Hooke first discovered the cell when he viewed a slice of cork under his microscope. There are also two different types of cells, prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells, such as bacteria, have no nucleus or internal membranes, while eukaryotic cells, such as the ones in humans, do have a nucleus and internal membranes. Speaking of prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells, let's talk about the theory of endosymbiosis. The theory of endosymbiosis states that probable prokaryotes such as the mitochondria and chloroplasts were probably engulfed by a eukaryotic cell and they just evolved to survive together. This could explain why the mitochondria and chloroplasts also are able to self-replicate and have their own nuclear material. The shape, structure, and function of a cell also depends on whether it is an animal or plant cell. Animal cells are usually round and lack a cell wall, while plant cells do have that cell wall and have a rectangular shape because of it. So without further delay, let's talk about the different parts of the cells, also known as organelles.
The nucleus. It contains chromosomes that are made up of DNA and contain genes. The nucleus also has a selectively permeable double membrane, which is referred to as the nuclear envelope in most diagrams since it has pores. Then we have the nucleolus, which is inside the nucleus. It is the site of ribosome synthesis or production and is made up of tangled chromatin. Then we move on to the ribosome, which can either be found free-floating within the cell or connected to the endoplasmic reticulum. It is the site of protein synthesis, which is extremely important. The ribosome is made up of ribosomal RNA and other proteins. Speaking of the endoplasmic reticulum, the ER can either be rough or smooth. While both of these are just a system of channels throughout the cytoplasm, they have different functions. The rough ER helps with the assembling of proteins, while the smooth ER makes steroids and other lipids, detoxifies the cell, and aids in carbohydrate metabolism. Up next is the Golgi Apparatus. It is a stack of flattened sacs of membranes. Its function is to modify, store, and package the proteins created in the rough ER or endoplasmic reticulum. Then we move on to the mitochondrion, which most of you on the internet know as the powerhouse of the cell. It is the site of cellular respiration. It has a double outer membrane and folded inner membranes called the cristae. Like mentioned before, it has its own DNA or nuclear material and can self-replicate. Moving on to the lysosome. The lysosome is a site of cellular digestion and is involved in apoptosis or cell death. The next organelle is the vacuole, which is a storage site of the cell. This is where your fat or adipose is stored. A vesicle is just a smaller vacuole and is involved in the synapse between nerve impulses. The cytoskeleton is a network of protein filaments which give the cell its shape and aid it in movement. Microtubules are hollow tubes that make up the cilia, flagella, and the spindle fibers. Microfilaments, on the other hand, are made up of polymers of actin and give the cell its shape and are present during the creation of the cleavage furrow. Microfilaments are also present and aid in the contraction of skeletal muscles. Cilia and flagella are made up of microtubules and aid in movement of the cell. Cilia are also present in other parts of your body, like your throat, to ensure that foreign materials don't make their way down into your system and into your lungs. Centrioles and centrosomes are outside the nuclear membrane and organize spindle fibers in animal cells only. Also, if you don't know the difference between the two, a centriole at a 90-degree angle is called a centrosome. Now we move on to the organelles found only in plants and algae. Plastids have double membranes and they include chloroplasts, leucoplasts, and chromoplasts. Chloroplasts have chlorophyll, which gives plants their green color. They are the site of protein synthesis and have an inner membrane, which is called the grana. The grana is within the stroma. Chloroplasts can also self-replicate and have their own nuclear material. Leucoplasts, on the other hand, are colorless. They store starches and are found in roots such as turnips and potatoes. Chromoplasts are carotenoid pigments which give carrots their orange color. We also have the cell wall. In plants, the wall is made up of cellulose, while in fungi, it is made up of chitin. It is split into 3 layers, the primary, secondary, and middle lamella. The cytoplasm is the entirety of the cell in a sense. Cytosol is the semi-liquid portion of the cytoplasm. The last part of the cell that we're going to go over is the plasma membrane. It is selectively permeable, so it only lets a few things slip inside of the cell. Other materials must pass through other entrances such as the aquaporin and the sodium-potassium pump. It is also a fluid mosaic since it is very flexible, and it is considered a phospholipid bilayer since it is made up of phosphates and lipids. The hydrophobic tails face inward while the hydrophilic or water-loving ends face outward. It is important to note that the molecules of cholesterol embedded in the membrane make it less fluid and more stable, while the carbohydrate chains on the top of them allow for communication within the cell.
So thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful, and I'm always glad to be of help.